What's happening? Awesome. Oh, nope. Sorry. Damn it. I did it. That's the first time. Stokastic. What's happening, Stokastic baseball fans? Luckily, nobody's watching because it's the All-Star break. Well, it's 260 you guys here. I'm Terry McBride. We're here to talk about the MLB All-Star Game, this fantastic single-game slate of DFS action. I'm here with my pal Gundacker. We're going to break this entire slate down from top to bottom. We've got time to talk about every player on the slate 2 or 3 times over. We'll see how we do for time. We'll see what time we go until. We're going to take your questions, all that fun stuff. Gun, what's going on? How's your Tuesday going, buddy? How's your All-Star break going?
So far so good. I've only been awake for about an hour. So Tuesday is brand new.
Short.
Yeah. All-Star break. Yeah. Watched some Derby last night. Some of The Captain. Did you check that out? That was
I haven't seen it yet. How was it?
I mean, I guess it's an episodic series, kind of like the Michael Jordan thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought I heard. You hear one Derek Jeter documentary, you hear them all, but this one had some incredible footage. So I was captivated. I mean, they had footage. I don't know. That's a bar. They had like footage of him getting drafted, him in his room, and remember that was in the early 90s. So like for that stuff to never be seen, or I never seen it. That was beautiful.
It doesn't sound like a clip I've seen. I'm trying to remember in the access the old memory banks here, and they're kind of fuzzy from back then, but yeah, I mean, Cap's my guy, Jeter's my guy from way back, so definitely going to check that out. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of good stuff, and he's amazing because like he spent all that time in New York City, and this is not a new point, everybody's heard this point before, but to spend all that time with all that coverage, the tabloids, the way that the New York media is, and everybody keeping an eye on him, and to get through life as clean as he did without major scandals. And it came out in years after his career toward the end that like he was giving the ladies gift baskets on their way out the door, and he had the whole setup with getting them out the back elevator of his building and everything, but
he's denied like that. So
he's denied it, but come on.
I don't even if it happened, I don't even know if that would change my mind on how great he is. I don't know.
It only enhances the legend, really. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really was like a throwback relationship almost with the press, back to like Mickey Mantle days, where they're like, we're not gonna rat him out, we're not gonna do him dirty because he does the right thing. He's the captain of the team and all. So interesting guy, should be an interesting doc. I'll definitely check it out. But guys, hit the like and subscribe. We're brought to you by Odd Shopper today. We'll talk about Odd Shopper in a little bit. It looks like we're still dropping Nightbot or somebody stream elements in there. Is still dropping the puppy promo code, but I'm pretty sure that's over. So if that doesn't work, blame the automated YouTube thing in there. But I think puppy's over. I don't think we have anything for free up on the site. So we're just going on pure love for us being here for the All-Star Game for 342 of you guys. Probably get up around 350. Gun, I was going to rip off your bit from the other day. We're already up to 73 thumbs. The average ISO for the starting lineups in the All-Star Game is 224. I think that's really doable. I think we can get an all-star ISO out of our crowd here. So we'll throw it back to the guys. The thumbs up total is your ISO. Let's get it up at least over an all-star level here. It's not the 700 viewers we had the other day. So we'll temper expectations, but I think they can do that. Anything off the top of your head to call out about this one? We were talking about like the home run derby last night. Is there any impact, just to start in a weird spot? Is there any impact to your expectations for some of these guys from having appeared in the home run derby? Let's say like a young kid, like a Julio Rodriguez, really stood out, had a great performance, went all the way to the finals, hit a ton of home runs, had to have come out of it tired. He's a rookie, so you're thinking maybe he defers a little bit of playing time in this one, a plate appearance or something in this one to an aging star, from his team, and maybe he doesn't see the 2 plate appearances we might be expecting. So anything like that lurking in your mind from the home run derby or from anything else, like any recent performance, recent usage, anything like that?
Yeah, it's a very weird thing. I think that the most compelling strategy, but it's still a game of chance. I mean, no matter what, this slate's it's a luck fest. But
total crap.
This year, for the first time ever, there's not going to be extra innings if it came to it. So if there's a tie game, it's going to go into a home run derby off, a home run off, and it actually will involve Julio Rodriguez. So both leagues will have 3 representatives to. Have they
designated the representatives already?
So from what I understand,
I hadn't seen that.
The American League is Ty France, Julio Rodriguez, and Kyle Tucker. Okay. And then the National League is Pete Alonso, Ronald Acuna, and Kyle Schwarber. So 4 of those
feel like
guys
somebody stacked that correctly and somebody didn't necessarily stack that correctly. That's like if you're going just pure DFS lineup wise, and yeah, that doesn't seem balanced to me. That's interesting.
And so I don't know how that's going to play. Like if it came to that, what does that mean for us in DFS? Each player...
DraftKings did post a note about that during the day. I was wondering about that this morning, and DraftKings posted a note somewhere in the middle of the afternoon saying if that happens, those runs will not count.
God,
so none of that scoring counts on DK. FanDuel, the guys who screw up even a simple double header, have not made any such announcement. So I am fully expecting any of those home runs to count on FanDuel.
Says each player will get 3 swings, and the team with the highest combined homer total after those 3 rounds.
So you might, if we happen to get to extra innings, and it's 14.6, 13 out of 89 All-Star games have gone to extra innings since 1933 when the game started. So there's a chance. And yeah, all of a sudden you might have 3 additional Julio Rodriguez home runs. You might have 9 additional National League home runs. It's a total crapshoot. Who pitches in that instance? Is it like batting practice pitcher matchup, or is it the opposing relief pitcher throwing actual pitches?
I would imagine it's some BP guy, or I don't know.
So he's going to go out and take the field with the AL All-Stars.
Is Patrick Corbin available? Like, I want him.
How is this going to work? I'm very curious. I didn't bother to check into that part because I thought it would be fun to talk about it on the show.
All I know is one of those teams is not like the other, and yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you're plunking money down, like, does that influence? Knowing that you need to thread the needle of it getting to a tie game in the first place, getting to extra innings, is that something that's going to influence the degree to which you roster any of those players?
Well, if we're not getting points, no. if it was like a slight chance that happened, and then we would get some points for that. And again, we don't know if FanDuel how they're going to score that.
FanDuel it might be. I'm not quite sure. All right, so we know that that's out there. That's a wacky part of the equation here. Overall, had to make some major adjustments to even get the model to show me any numbers or anything like that today. All the AL guys are playing for the Tampa Bay Rays today. All the NL guys are playing for the Dodgers. It's a whole mess, but we've got some numbers here. The way that I cut things was to just give all the hitters 2 plate appearances. I gave the starting pitchers 2 innings, but I don't actually expect most of them to see 2 innings. And then I gave the relievers 1 inning. I know Sean, when he was working on the site's projections, gave most of the pitchers the same, and then gave a handful of guys, and I'll pull it up here so I can actually talk it through instead of just trying to use my feeble short-term memory. So what Sean did, what we did at the site for the National League, it was 1 inning pitched for all pitchers, except giving a 25% chance of an inning pitch for McCullers, Anderson, Bednar, and Mantiply. And for the American League, 1 inning for all pitchers, except a 50% chance for 1 inning for Blackburn and Perez, and 33% chance for Lopez, Soto, and Romano, with Hendricks slotted to pitch the bottom of the 9th, but maybe not pitching if not necessary to close. So I do agree, Hendricks the likely closer there. But there's a lot of just general crapshoot, like you said, around the pitchers. Last year, we only had 1 pitcher pitch more. Corbin Burns pitched 2 innings. Everybody else pitched 1 inning or less. Everybody for the American League pitched 1 inning, 9 pitchers pitched. What are you expecting on the mound? And would you roster any pitchers on the DK side of things? We don't have to worry about it on FanDuel.
This slate is just Terry, it's all luck. I think yes, because a pitcher with 1 inning is likely to average more fantasy points per appearance than a hitter with 1 at bat. I would assume. So yes, I guess that is the move. I'm just at a loss for words here. I don't know how to break this.
And that's it. It's very difficult to put your finger on something like that. And I was wrestling with how to answer that question all day today, because technically, if I'm giving Shane McClanahan an inning, right, I've got him for 2 innings on the board here, and he's projecting for 14 FanDuel points. In 2 plate appearances, Aaron Judge projects for half that. Right. And that's about what I expect Aaron Judge to get. I expect him to get 2 plate appearances, and most of the hitters are going to get 2 plate appearances. Sub out. Some of the guys toward the bottom might get 1. Some of the bench guys might get 1, but the innings pitched is really, really tricky. And you could get a lot of these guys. To me, there's an equal chance of Edwin Diaz giving you a clean inning with 3 strikeouts as there is to Shane McClanahan. Edwin Diaz has a 50% strikeout rate this season. A lot of these back end relievers, the Ryan Helsleys of the world, have extreme strikeout rates. So they're almost more likely, if they get a full inning, to give you that big point and big in relative terms. But none of that equals the potential output from even 1 home run, a double, and some RBIs. So it's very, very tricky to figure that out. Would you be putting any pitchers in your captain spot?
I would say no, because there's going to be a homer, right? And
I would have to think so.
Right. And that guy's probably the optimal captain always. So probably not. I don't see a pitcher getting to 14 fantasy points. So probably not.
I agree with that. I think it's a difficult ask for a pitcher to put up anything equivalent to any kind of extra base hit, even that drives in a run, probably is going to surpass most of the pitcher scoring. So I think you have to focus on the hitters in the multiplier spot on DK. You're wrestling with salary. So that's the other part of the equation on the DraftKings slate, and what makes DraftKings interesting as opposed to FanDuel, where you can quite literally just play anybody that you want, any combination. On DK, we've got the 1.5x point multiplier, but also the 1.5x salary multiplier. So on DK, if you put Aaron Judge into that captain spot, you're immediately limiting what you can do on the average with all the rest of the spend in those other spots. There's 5 util spots to fill, and you really cut dramatically the ability to spend money in those other spots. Where if you roster like a Paul Goldschmidt, who's starting hitting cleanup for the National League and comes in at 7,500, that's half the price of Aaron Judge. You can do a whole hell of a lot more with him at captain, or with a $9,000 guy like a Wilson Contreras or a 10-5 Timmy Anderson, somebody like that. So how do you handle that captain role, knowing that you do want to get to those guys who are more likely to see multiple plate appearances, the premium home run hitters? How do you handle a captain role from a salary perspective on DK and from a lineup build perspective?
So when we put Aaron Judge, who's the most expensive guy on DraftKings, in the captain spot, that gives us just under 7K per for each util spot. And the cheap bottom of the barrel guys are around 4 to 5K. And then looking at some of the potential guys off the bench, a lot of those guys are 4K flat or between 4 and 5K. So I still think you can get away if you believed in Judge as the top guy, but I'm with you. It's usually never that obvious. So I don't think salary is going to be that hard to overcome. So if I put Judge in the captain spot with an average of almost 7K per, Pete Alonso, for example, is 4,800. That's a good opportunity to grab him. Shane McClanahan's only 5K. So I don't really think salary is going to be all too restrictive on DK. You just obviously can't get like the Ohtani, Judge, Acuna, Mookie lineup all together. I think you can make it happen. And I really think, this is that captain spot, spin the wheel, make a deal on a guy that has power, right? Who's going to hit, who's the most likely to hit a homer, or it just has that power to do so. I think we're going to lean a lot more on the top of the order guys. According to our ownership projections, Judge is going to be the highest owned util player. And it looks like he's flirting with one of the highest owned captains at 6%. That's behind Rafi Devers at 7%. But those are so such a small, single digits, 5% or less for most of the captain spot, that you can be pretty lottery ticket with it and just go crazy. You don't have to undercut the field too much in certain spots like we usually have to deal with on slate. So I don't think salary is going to be that restrictive on DK. You just obviously can't have the top 4 guys in a lineup.
And that's where it gets a little challenging, right? You can go with Judge, but then you've got to start getting cheap pretty quickly. So you can't go like Judge Ohtani. You can't go like Judge Mookie all that easily without going to multiple very cheap guys. Whereas on the FanDuel slate, the example that I used was if you plugged in, if you plugged in, I think, Judge and Ohtani off the top, you could still use, it's in my article, everybody. I have an article up on the site today. I was invited to write an article about the All-Star game. So it was Judge and Goldschmidt were the top 2 most expensive players in the MVP and star positions. Since their salaries don't multiply, you still had 5,500 per position across the final 3 spots, which meant you could use $8,500 Mookie, the 3rd most expensive player, still have 4,000 in each of the util other remaining util spots. So you could easily go Judge Goldschmidt in the 2 multipliers, Mookie in the 3rd, and then Kyle Schwarber, Jose Ramirez, who both cost 4,000. So it's just easy to put together basically whatever lineups you want, as long as you're willing to, forego starters in favor of guys coming off the bench, which I think makes total sense since we're expecting equal amounts of plate appearances. So with that in mind, let's take a look. It looks like the ownership is mostly reflecting what we were saying about these pitchers on the DK slate. The starters are getting a little bit of attention. Like Shane McClanahan, 10% DK util ownership, 2.2% captain. That's not nothing. 1.2% for Kershaw, 10.1% util ownership. So the field is going there a little bit. It looks like, like Nestor Cortez is drawing 1.2% ownership. A lot of guys around 1% on the util spots. Tony Gonsolin, 3.5% util. Maybe people are thinking hometown pitchers, definitely going to see an inning guy who can pitch in that hybrid role. So anybody from the non-starter pool of pitchers that you've kind of got in mind, like a guy like that you might throw into the mix in the few spots that you are rostering pitchers here?
So I think the way the All-Star game works is that any pitcher can get the win, right? So I think that's another bit of luck that you have to deal with is what random guy goes out there and then is win eligible. So there's really no way to prioritize that other than, I guess, focus on the highest strikeout percentage guys, because one inning, if you get the guy that goes out there in 1 inning, gets maybe strikes out the side, but maybe 2 strikeouts, something like that. I don't have a tier past like McClanahan and Kershaw. You mentioned Diaz, maybe the closers that come in that have big strikeout stuff, especially towards the latter part of the game. It's not your all-star starters. It's the backups of the backups for the all-stars. So I guess if you have a strong read on the closers or the high strikeout guys towards the back end, those guys will probably be maybe a little bit more likely to have better strikeout potential. And then maybe if it's a tight game, they're a little bit more likely to scoop up a win. But I think any which way we slice this, it's going to be a little bit of luck involved.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think they do away with the win requirement because like Ohtani got the win last season and he only pitched the first inning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that means, they must have gotten the lead. Let me pull this back up. Yeah, so they got the lead in the top of the second for the AL, and they never relinquished it. So Ohtani, having pitched just the first inning, ended up getting the win there. So, excuse me. So, they do away with that 5-inning requirement. But like you said, I mean, if it goes through the first 3-4 innings tied, it's just could be anybody on these rosters. So guys for me that I would consider, I mentioned them before, Edwin Diaz, certainly interesting, a guy who could come in and close for the National League, 51.7% strikeout rate. And the NL's got a couple arms like that. They've got Ryan Helsley, 40.4% strikeout rate, Devin Williams, 41.3%. And these are guys who are used to coming in high leverage situations in an inning at a time and in big relief spots. Similarly, on the AL side, Liam Hendricks, 36.9% strikeout rate. And then they drop off over there, but they've got, Emmanuel Clay Holmes, both premium relievers, excellent seasons so far. They just don't ascend to that like 40+% strikeout rate like we see on the NL side. So maybe if I'm looking to pick off a relief type pitcher, I'm going to the National League a little bit more to some of those premium arms. Anything else to throw into the mix about pitcher, or you want to talk some hitters?
Yeah, no, I got nothing else. Clause, I think, would be fully available. I'm some of these guys that are there. There are some guys that are going to be uniform that won't play. And I don't have that. I don't have the confirmed list. I don't know if they put out a confirmed list, but I'm worried about some of those relievers being like that. I don't know if Clay Holmes is ready after the way he ended the first half. So I'd be on Clause more than Clay right now.
Okay. All right, that's an interesting call. And yeah, it definitely wasn't a pretty end to the first half for several pitchers, like Josh Hader from Milwaukee, who's not in this game, but he just had a brutal couple games before the end there. He's going to be sitting out. So guys that I know confirmed across the board sitting out, and I'll do the hitters and the pitchers, just starting from the top. Jose Altuve was elected to start. Mike Trout was elected to start for the American League. They're both sitting out. From the American League bench, George Springer, Jordan Alvarez, both sitting out. From the American League pitching, Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole both sitting out. Okay. And then from the National League side, from the starting lineup, Jazz Chisholm and Bryce Harper, both out with injuries. Nolan Arenado, Starling Marte, both sitting out. National League pitchers, Corbin Burns won't be here. Max Fried won't be here. Carlos Rodon won't be here. And Josh Hader won't be here. Everybody else I believe, is at least expected to be in uniform and potentially available. But we know like Shohei Ohtani going to lead off for the AL, play in the field, but or I don't know if he's DHing or playing in the field, but he's not going to pitch.
Right.
So you're not getting any pitching points out of Ohtani. He's just going to hit today. So we do know there are wrinkles like that. And yeah, to your point, like any of these guys might have gotten word from their teams, like, hey, he's going to be there. He's going to represent the team. He's going to be, you know, wearing his uniform, but don't throw him out there. So again, kind of a crapshoot around a lot of these pitchers, and it's a low end crapshoot. Like a lot of these guys might just not be worth playing because you're just more likely to get points at hitting. So why don't we dive in, talk about hitting? You want to run through the American League starting lineup and any thoughts there? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah. So I'm looking at Ohtani leading off. We know he's the DH. We have three guys in the depth chart for the DH. It's Ohtani, Miggy and Pujols. We'll get that, you know, hero send off at bat. And then JD Martinez and Garrett Cooper, or JD Martinez is listed on the depth chart for DH on the American League. So most of the positions or most of the slots have just two players, but first base, shortstop, and DH have a depth chart of three. So there's a little bit more mouths to feed there. So you might get two at bats of Ohtani since he's the leadoff guy, but past that, you might only get one Miggy, one JD. I got Judgy in the 2 spot, Rafi Devers 3, Vladimir Guerrero in the cleanup spot, Stanton batting 5th, Buxton in the 6th spot, Tim Anderson in the 7th spot, Andres Jimenez.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then Alejandro
in for Altuve.
All right. Alejandro Kirk in the 9th spot. So I think catchers. If you want to get like a safety in plate appearances, I think, you know, the catchers will probably all get at least 2 plate appearances, because only having 2 catchers to catch baseballs, they're not going nowhere. So let's say, you know, the first 2 catchers, or the first catcher gets 2 plate appearances and the subs out, and then behind Kirk is Jose Trevino. If he comes in the 4th or 5th inning, and then, you know, they bat around and around and around, there's no other catcher to come in there. So he just might be pretty safe for their plate appearances. So I think if you are struggling with how to project at bats or plate appearances, I feel like you can be pretty sure that each catcher is going to get a minimum of 2 opportunities to hit, if that raises your projection any. I think the NL probably has better hitting catchers, but Kirk has been great, and Trevino has been fun, and maybe Trevino will catch one of the Yankee relievers if it comes to that. But yeah, that's our starting lineup. It is really deep. Like having Buxton in the 6th spot, his combo of power and speed is pretty crazy to see. It's like the AL starters look a lot better than NL starters, but then you look at that home run team that the 3v3, the NL's team looks a little bit better. But that's what I got there. I do
buried on that NL bench too. I mean, that thing is deep. And you talked about that. You brought up the first base thing on the National League side of things. That looks really crowded because you've got Goldschmidt, Pete Alonso, Freddie Freeman, CJ Cron. And then you're looking at Albert Pujols, Garrett Cooper. Most of those guys are slotted in our depth chart for the DH spot. But I mean, that is a lot of guys who are going to be playing on that corner. So you've got to find time for each one of those guys. Like you said, Pujols going to get that goodbye plate appearance. He had the little glory in the home run derby, but he's going to see a spot here. Guy who played for the Dodgers for a brief moment too, so they'll definitely wave him through. Same with Miggy on the AL side of things, but there's going to be an interesting rotation through that spot where all the other positions kind of only run 2 deep. So like shortstop on the NL side, Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson. Second base, Jeff McNeil, Jake Cronenworth. Third base, Manny Machado, Austin Riley on our depth chart. Bunch of outfielders in there, obviously. But the catcher spot is definitely interesting because they're going to rotate those guys. It's going to be a half and half split, basically. And like you said, if you get that big inning, if you happen to be on the catcher in that big inning, you see him hit the right guy and you get the 3 plate appearances out of your guy, the 4 plate appearances even better, then you're really onto something because you're gaining ground on the field because they're not going to be swapping that second guy. So like you said, Trevino, more fun than he is necessarily like big upside guy, sitting for the season now 251, 299, 415, creating runs 3% better than average, 7 home runs, a 164 ISO. Not amazing all-star caliber numbers, but serviceable, been fun, has had that weird knack for coming up with big knocks. So he gets in there, you never know. As far as the starting lineup goes, are there any guys that you're really like leaning into? Is there anybody that you think is going to get 3 plate appearances? Let's talk about that real quick, because last season, Vladdy and
Mhm.
Xander Bogaerts in the American League starting lineup both saw 3 plate appearances. Nobody else saw more than 2. So is there anybody you expect in the starting lineup to get more than 2?
I'm not. I can't project anyone more than 2. At least not
Fair.
on. Yeah, no, I can't. There's
That's fair.
probably. It seems like every year there's one guy from each side that does end up stealing a third one. But with them jamming in Miggy and Pujols here, they're gonna. I don't know how if they'll just double switch throughout the lineup instead of actually, you know what I mean, having to play the
Mhm.
field and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I can't project anyone.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And again, guys, we're playing a lot of guessing game here and trying to figure out, where some of these chips might fall. But you would have to figure it's going to come in, let's say, the top 4 of the lineup. Like maybe it goes around to the, Shohei Ohtani comes out, Judge comes out, but Devers sees that 3rd plate appearance. It would be something like that. It wouldn't come from one of the guys like a Buxton, like a Timmy Anderson. You just wouldn't see it drop down the lineup that far, most likely. It's possible, but most likely I think it would come from that top end of the lineup. Anybody standing out to you from the upper part of the lineup that looks like really low owned? For me, it's Shohei Ohtani in the leadoff spot. 3.5% on the DK util, not owned at all in DK captain according to projections. FanDuel 3.8% in the MVP, 11.6 util. What are you seeing on Ohtani that he's going so low owned?
I mean, the first at bat against Kershaw, right? Lefty. Ohtani strikes out almost 30% against lefties, but there's not really going to be a plus matchup throughout this entire game. You're just kind of hoping for, an elite hitter to take an elite pitcher deep, and we see that every year. But yeah, you would think the leadoff guy, especially a guy with as much buzz as Ohtani, would carry a little bit more ownership than that with that guaranteed. I think he's the other than the catchers, the most likely to get 2 at bats plus.
It seems like, right?
Yeah, and
LA area star, like it's not a Dodger, but I mean this is basically a hometown game. One of the featured stars of Major League Baseball. Do you think there's any is the public worried that maybe he's being treated like he's fragile, and since he said he's not going to pitch, they're worried he's only getting 1 plate appearance, so they're not going to him? It can't be cost based on FanDuel. He's only 7,000 on the FanDuel slate. So I really don't quite understand what's going on with him on FanDuel. At 15K, I guess knocking it down a little bit on DK, but not to that extent. So is there something we're missing? Is there something the public is thinking that we're not necessarily worried about here? I'm trying to put my finger on what it is.
I have no idea, man. Oh, dude, I'm sorry to laugh, but this is such a freaking lottery ticket.
Tell us what you think out there, chat. Give us your thoughts. Why is Ohtani going so low on? What are you guys seeing with Ohtani? Is the site potentially incorrect? Is everybody out there Instapoll? Is everybody out there planning on rostering Ohtani? Because maybe we fat fingered something behind the scenes and it's supposed to say 13%. Who the hell knows? But yeah, that's one that stood out to me. Is there anybody else that kind of stands out as being kind of low owned in a specific spot to you?
So I mean, just looking at the weaknesses of the 2 starting pitchers, McClanahan has allowed more homers to lefties, but I don't know that he's going to even get down to the bottom of the National League order where the lefties are. Kershaw, to touch on the Ohtani stuff, I don't think he's allowed a homer to a lefty yet. And last year had a 0.25 homer per 9 to lefties. So it's going to be really hard for the 2 lefties in the top 3 of the American League order, Ohtani and Devers, to take Kershaw deep. Obviously, those 2 are very talented lefties that could make it happen. And maybe Kershaw and some of these pitchers are not coming out throwing all of their stuff, but it feels like
they are only the 2 most talented left-handed hitters in the American League. So
right,
let's little credit where credit is due.
I don't know that I would I don't know. I'm not the American League skipper, but I don't think I would have drop 2 lefties in the top of my lineup against Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, another little weird kind of a configuration there by the American League. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in the clubhouse there. The National League came out a little bit more sensible, 7 right-handed hitters in a row and then 2 lefties. That makes some sense. Poor Jock Peterson's going to end up in a lefty-lefty matchup in that 8 spot somehow still, though. So looking through some of the lineup spots, I think, the DK captainship for Vladdy Guerrero hitting cleanup for the American League, that looks a little low, around 2%, around half of what we're seeing for Stanton, Buxton, Rafi Devers, and Judge. So that one kind of stood out to me a little bit. It's the same, it looks like, on FanDuel in the MVP spot, where he's drawing like half or a third of the ownership of some of those other guys. So maybe just based on, kid who's out there all the time, superstar hitter, kid who did see 3 plate appearances for this American League team last year in the same role. So maybe that's a little low on there. What about the bottom end of the lineup? The Timmy Andersons, Andres Jimenez, Alejandro Kirks. We talked about Kirk from a catcher perspective. If you wanted to put a catcher in every single one of 150 lineups, how would you split the ownership between the 4 available catchers?
All right, that's a great question. Let's go with I think Trevino is going to be last, right?
Sure.
He's just trying to hunt homers. So we got Wilson Contreras and Darno, and I guess it doesn't matter about William Contreras. He's DHing, and I don't think the catcher spot matters. Yeah. But so probably Wilson Contreras, since he's batting 6th. He's got Trey Turner and Goldie in front of him, 2 speedsters, good hit for average, so he's in a good RBI spot. So I'd say Wilson Contreras is my top catcher to target. And then behind him, we'll go Kirk, then Darno, and then Trevino.
I like that. I think that's the right order. Not too much to add there. Wilson Contreras definitely interesting in that spot with Goldschmidt and Turner, like you said, ahead of him. 330, 414 for Goldschmidt, 306, 354 for Trey Turner. So guys who just high average, balls in play, get on base a ton of the time and set the table for hitters like him. Favorite Contreras between Wilson and William?
Wilson. And the reason being is because William is slotted as a DH, and there's 3 in the DH depth chart: Albert Pujols, Gary Cooper. So there's a real chance that William Contreras gets 1 at bat.
And potentially that, CJ Cron, who, like we said, is the 4th man on the first base part of that NL depth chart. So a lot of plate appearances to shuffle around there on the NL side. Back over to the AL, just taking a look, flipping things around. It looks like Byron Buxton at 4,000 on the FanDuel slate. Somebody typed that salary in wrong. That seems pretty cheap. He's hitting 6th. Maybe it's only 2 plate appearances, but 15.8% barrel rate, 49.7% hard hit, 23 home runs. Yeah, 216, 293, 531 for the season, but I don't really care about his triple slash here. We're home run hunting. What do you see for Byron Buxton, and why is he so cheap on FanDuel?
I don't know what the logic behind anything on this slate really is. But he's in a good spot. He doesn't necessarily he's got good OBP guys in front of him, but you don't expect Stanton or Vladdy to do anything. And the thing with Stanton is he's liable to be pinch run for when he's out there, because I'm sure the Yankees have flown these guys out with bubble wrap too, because they didn't touch the home run derby, and they weren't if you were to make 3 American League guys to go out there in a 3v3 to hit homers, or are you picking Ty France over Stanton and Judge? Probably not. So I think there is some gag order involved with
maybe they thought they had to pick from their non-starters on the American League side of things. That's the only possibility, right?
Yeah, I think I feel like that there's some requests.
Don't give them any of those weird home run derby type plate appearances. We could definitely see that, because Judge, and has Stanton come back dinged up from it? I know Judge has. He came back the one year he did it and had a weird shoulder thing. So I can see that. Speaking of weird stuff with flights, did you see the latest Moneyball move from the Athletics with Paul Blackburn?
No.
It was on Twitter this afternoon. Apparently they were forcing Paul Blackburn to fly commercial to go to the game to make his All-Star appearance. So instead, the Houston Astros found out about that and offered to fly him on their charter. So Paul Blackburn flew to the All-Star game on the Houston Astros charter.
Oh my God.
Yes. The Athletics are super cheap. That is pretty sad. Get those people a new stadium, move the team. I don't know. We got to do something with that team. Let's see what's going on in chat.
Terry, did they at least buy him a business class ticket? Do you have any information, or was he in coach and they were have fun, buddy?
Yeah, 3 rows behind the wing against the window where the engine blows back and it's all noisy and you don't have any legroom. That was where he was going to sit, I'm sure.
Yeah, low AC. Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Stand by.
Little blower thing isn't working, doesn't blow on them. Those things don't work at all. And by the way, has anybody like, have you ever gotten cool from that? Have you ever been on a plane and you're like, I'm hot, it's uncomfortable, I'm warm, let me turn this awkward blower thing on, and then been like, oh, that's refreshing?
No, and it also
You've never been on a plane?
You've never flown? Wow.
Well,
Wow.
they're not built for guys like Gundacker, and they're also they leave the earth kind of. and I'm a guy that likes the ground.
I'm with you on liking the ground a little bit more than liking the sky. I never had like a problem flying. I have like the abstraction problem. Like right now thinking about it, I'm like, that doesn't seem normal. But when I'm up there, I'm fine. Like it's weird. But all right, so you used to live out this way out east though, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I've
so
got
you went out that way, out west,
miles back and
caravan?
forth several times via the four wheels or way back in the day the Greyhound, right? In the late 90s.
No bindle over your shoulder, hop on the Greyhound.
Oh yeah, I when I was a kid, my sisters would fly. Like we went to Chicago one time. My sisters flew there, and I took a Greyhound and met them there. Like it's like that. I don't like.
All right. I mean, buses also not exactly.
Oh yeah.
Designed to a Gundacker style.
Yeah, but you don't ever see buses crash in the mountains.
You see them flip 22 times off the side of the highway, like in another 48 hours. But
okay,
these things happen. Anyway, back over to the old slate here. Let's see what's going on in the chat, guys. Hit the like for us. We're having some fun. 559 of you hanging out with us on a All-Star Tuesday here. We're filling up some time. We'll see how close we can get to where we're supposed to get to. We've got the National League still to talk about. Make sure you guys get to that All-Star level ISO. I forget what I said it was, but we're only at 155, and I know it wasn't that. It was over 200. So get us a couple more thumbs up over there. We're brought to you. Excuse me. Still got a little bit of the COVID in the lungs. We're brought to you by Odd Shopper. It's the only read I've got for the entire day. So you're getting one ad. All-Star weekend here. You're welcome. Enjoy it. Odd Shopper. Make your best bets in 30 seconds or less with Odd Shopper. With hundreds of bets featured daily, Odd Shopper gives you the edge you need in betting player props and game lines across all sports. Sign up for free right now via the link in the video description below to gain access to our proprietary data, which will help you make your best bets. With expected win percentages and ROIs included, OddsShopper uses the same DFS projections that we use here at Stokastic to filter out the best bets available across sportsbooks. OddsShopper also features a parlay builder with optimized parlays and an arbitrage tool that identifies risk-free, guaranteed profit bets that you can make across sportsbook. Check out Odd Shopper today, guys. There's 2 S's in the middle if you're typing it in. It's linked with a little tab at the top of Stokastic, oddshopper.com. Great site. Make sure you guys are checking it out when you're making bets. I guarantee it's the best way to find the right place to make your bets. Let's take a look at the old National League. Ronald Acuna Jr. leading things off in the top spot there, drawing a little bit of attention. We've got a pretty star-laden lineup. What do you like about the National League that we haven't already talked about?
Looking at their starters, Acuna, Betts, Machado, Goldie, Trey Turner. So I do think that this lineup is built a little bit more for manufacturing runs, whereas the AL does kind of have a lane of guys, like Judge, Devers, Vladdy, Stanton. Like I'm not expecting those guys still. I guess Judge can steal bases because the Yankees run at will this year, but Mookie, Machado, Goldie, even Acuna and Trey Turner, all those guys I think have several ways to hurt you if they get on, right? Draw walks, steal bases, hit for average, and then all those guys even have some pop. But once you get toward the bottom half, it differs a little bit. But Trey Turner seems like the great Swiss Army knife of that lineup. Good RBI potential, and then of course if he gets on, he's likely to swipe a bags and accrue you a lot of fantasy points. So I do like their lineup for projections in terms of floor being a little bit higher than some of these power hitters. And in a 1-game sample where everyone's getting 1 or 2 at bats, we're not going to have the same expectation as we would of a normal baseball game or a normal slate where 4 or 5 at bats, you're going to get more homers. So I think in this spot, you might even see some zeros in the winning lineup, or at least some walks or something like that. So these patient hitters on the National League, especially 1 through 5, will definitely be guys that I have a lot of exposure to.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of on base skill, a lot of hit tool acumen in that top five there, and not to mention all the power available. I like the ability to accrue counting stats, like a guy like Trey Turner, 14 home runs, 17 stolen bases, gets on base 35% of the time, 306 average. It can hit the ball out of the park, can steal you a bag, doesn't strike out very much. You gotta love a player like that in this format. And then the NL side of things, you've got Mookie, you've got Paul Goldschmidt, who I mentioned earlier. Goldschmidt is kind of like Byron Buxton on the FanDuel slate, where he was coming in at 4,000. Goldschmidt in the captain role after being multiplied 7,500. I believe that's a 5K flat util salary. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Goldschmidt, super cheap for the cleanup role here. He is the leader in WRC plus for this entire game at 184. So he creates runs 84% better than average for the regular season, better than anybody in this game. He's drawing some ownership. He's the leading candidate for the captain role, but at that price, with what he affords you in those other spots, that might be a little bit low. He's super interesting to me there. So how much Goldschmidt are you getting to relative to the field in the captain role?
Yeah, I think he's got a great case of being the top guy. Matter of fact, when I put in my bomb detector on this, he actually has the highest power grade for me out of anyone from the starting pitching matchups.
Okay.
And we know Goldie historically, mashes lefties. So I'm in on that. And he hits for an incredible average the last 2 years against lefties. So the National League is built to strike much faster, in my opinion, than three lefties in the top three for the American League, which also just might help Kershaw get that win right away. But yeah, I think Goldie has. Yeah, I think Goldie has the. I think he's probably my highest owned captain if I had to make a decision here, and we have him at 5% in the captain spot, 5.2, which is sixth behind Buxton Acuna. I think he makes a ton of sense with a ton of protection around him.
Yeah, that's not enough ownership. So that came down since I dropped it in here fairly significantly. So that's not enough attention on him in the captain spot. Different story at 9,000 on FanDuel, but I'll have plenty of them over there. I just like the spot, like the hitter. So it's just a little bit more like that over on FanDuel, where it's just, I like this guy. I think it's a good spot. Haven't used too much of him, so let me plug him in combination with these other guys I also like. A little bit more strategic on the DK slate. What about the lefties? Like, what about a Jock Peterson toward the end of the lineup there? 7,500 on DK, not drawing all that much attention. Guy who is likely to only maybe Jock's a guy who only sees one plate appearance if they try and match up with him and they platoon him. Do you see more than one plate appearance for Jock? Do you worry about that? Are you getting to him? Like, what's your read there?
He doesn't get more than one, it seems, when he plays for the Giants.
Yeah, normally, right? Yeah.
Now you're in the 8th spot. I think it's for a guy like Jock specifically. We mentioned they have three guys that rotate that DH, and then they got 4 guys in that first baseman depth chart. It feels like a double switch is going to have to happen somewhere with I don't see Goldie, Alonso, Freeman, and CJ Cron all playing defense for long. So I don't know that Jock's long for this one, and really him or McNeil, but I'd probably just expect 1.5 at bats, but probably closer to the 1, depending on if there's no runs. Like, I guess if they start scoring early, they rotate an extra time through the order. But if this is a pitcher's duel, which all-star games tend to be, and he's got 1 at bat through 3 innings, I don't know that they have enough. Everyone has to play, coach. I don't know that they'll be able to get him out there a second time with all those guys that they want to get some TV time to.
Yeah. And I mean, that is worth, mentioning again, guys. This is not going to be a situation where they're making decisions competitively. Everybody's going to get out there. It's like Little League. Everybody gets their plate appearance. Everybody gets their TV time. With every now and then there are minor exceptions to that, where a guy they happen to not be able to work them in. But for the most part, these guys are going to get subbed out regardless of situation, regardless of competitive nature. And these games are typically fairly low scoring. Since 2000, the All-Star game saw an average of 8.1 runs scored. And a lot of that comes from 4 outlier contests that went from 2002 to 2005, where every single one of them went over 12 runs. There was the 14-inning tie in 2002, and then there were 3 games after that all went over 12 runs. From 2006 to 2021, we averaged 6.9. So 7.5 run total tonight. Not a lot of scoring expected. It could be one of those slates, like you said before. We could see a 0 in a winning lineup. We could see multiple zeros. 2-0 game with only one guy hitting a home run, no pitchers on FanDuel even to make it even further. Like maybe that's the situation where pitchers become a little bit relevant, where if we get this pitching duel through, 6-7 different pitchers go up and put up zeros and there's not a lot of hits, not a lot of scoring, then you could see pitchers become a little bit more relevant. But I still favor the hitting. I still lean into the hitting side of things. What about from the benches? Anybody that you want to call out in particular that we haven't talked about from either one of these benches that you're expecting to see big things from, that is kind of just tickling your fancy and you're trying to work into your lineups anymore? Who are you looking at from either one of the benches?
I mean, Juan Soto. he's kind of good.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. And then I guess Julio Rodriguez, man, made a splash yesterday. Maybe there's some fatigue, a little soreness the next day, but I don't know, he's a young blood and he looked pretty good yesterday. He's another guy with speed and power, and he might be one of those guys. If Stanton got on, Julio would pinch run from him, and you're in the game, kid. Have fun. So those guys stand out. I guess I'll ask you, man. Miggy and Albert Pujols, they're gonna get that send off. They made a special spot for these two. Any chance those guys are getting meatballs grooved to them?
Yes. I mean, yes, we have seen stuff like that happen before. So there's a chance. I'll put them in my rosters to at least a little degree. They're not getting MVP spots, I don't think, but they can trickle into some of the util spots. Miggy's had a serviceable season in terms of his averages on bases, but he's hitting 287 over 309 plate appearances with a 324 average. There's just no power to speak of, and he's below average for run creation. So it hasn't translated into anything good, but at least he's gotten the ball in play a decent amount. So like maybe there's something there for Miggy. Pujols has shown us a little bit more power, 6 home runs, a 161 ISO, also creating runs below average at a 93 WRC plus. The only two guys in the game who were below average. Oh no, excuse me. Santiago Espinal also below average for run creation at a 98. So it's a tough ask, but knowing that they're going to get those spots, knowing they might get that meatball. I'll have some of them in my lineups. Like I'll probably have more of both Miggy and Albert Pujols than I will a Santiago Espinal.
Yeah, that's very fair. And it does seem like even yesterday, I don't know, there was, I'm not gonna say it felt the fix was in, but man, Schwarber had this look in his face, man. Like it felt like he was stalling on purpose.
Who doesn't want to see Albert Pujols go out with a bang and turn in a Cinderella story? Story here at Bushwood. I could see it. I think it's interesting. Guy who stands out for me, he stands out a lot during the regular season, and he was popping a little bit in the lineups here from the bench for the National League. Ian Happ, kind of interesting. 9 home runs on the season, a 170 ISO, creating runs 26% better than average. Switch hitter, could get into a number of different situations. So I like Happ. There's a lot of obvious names like Kyle Schwarber out there, like Corey Seager, Kyle Tucker, Xander Bogaerts, Jose Ramirez from the AL side of things. It's tough to nail down any specific guys, but that's kind of the mix of guys that I saw popping up a little bit more often in my sort. Maybe like a Dansby Swanson, total oddball kind of a play, not drawing a ton of attention. So anybody else to really shout out there that you want to make sure you're getting into at least a few lineups?
I mean, Corey Seager's listed 3rd in the depth chart for the American League shortstop. He's got a little bit of familiarity with Dodger Stadium. Might get a nice little pop from the crowd. So maybe he sees a positive matchup in the middle innings here. So maybe him. But yeah, we're just spitballing here.
Yeah, that's it. Spitballing, looking for answers. A lot of former Dodgers in this game. So definitely some guys to, maybe think about that. That might be a reason that they get into the game. Like you even have a Tyler Anderson in the bullpen for the National League. Maybe he sees an inning instead of somebody else just because, right? So always things to think about that with those little wrinkles there. Looks like the chat, based on our survey, is not planning on playing Shohei Ohtani all that much. 43% yes, 56% no, over 123 votes from chat there. We are 20 thumbs up shy of 200. Get us that 200 mark, guys. We're coming up on the end of the show here. I think it seems like we've talked about pretty much everybody here, talked about all the hitters, talked about the pitchers on DK. Do you have a favorite captain play? Who's your favorite captain on DK?
I think Goldie and or Trey Turner are going to be the two guys I lean on here. I just like their floor and ceiling combo. So one of those two, I guess, flip a coin. Probably goalie since he's in front of Trey, but Trey definitely has that stolen base potential, and the small stuff could add up to winning that MVP. And I think they give away a free car or something like that. So maybe still a bag for a car, and I like that. And then Judge has gone down to 6%, so Rafi Devers now is the highest owned captain at 7%, and that against Kershaw hasn't allowed a homer to a lefty in over a year. It seems like. That's interesting. We say that, but Devers is good.
Devers is good. So is Shohei Ohtani. I'll throw him into the mix off the top there too. Just open the game with that lefty home run and get that right off the table. It just sounds too obvious at low ownership on both sides. So I'm interested in Ohtani there for sure. I'll have a decent amount of him. On FanDuel, just taking a look, definitely think Vladdy's interesting. Very low ownership in the MVP. And then we mentioned the very low price on Byron Buxton as well. So just to throw another 2 superstars into the mix who have compelling reasons to roster them. And I think chat, unless chat's got any interesting questions, who are the catchers in tonight's game? You want to run down the 4 available catchers one more time, Gun?
Yeah. So American League is going to have Alejandro Kirk behind the dish. And then the only catcher in the depth chart for them is Jose Trevino, which is why I'm pretty safe with putting 2 at-bats on both those guys. For the National League, they have Wilson Contreras and Travis d'Arnaud. They have William Contreras in the DH spot. That's Williams' brother, which I don't know if that's happened before, where they're slotted to hit back-to-back.
I don't think so.
To run bat in your brother in the All-Star game, boy, that would be fun. But it's Contreras and d'Arnaud, Wilson Contreras, the Cubs, and d'Arnaud for the NL, Kirk and Trevino for the AL.
Gotta love it. That is a good wrap up there. And yeah, I think that's the first time, as far as I know, that the 2 brothers have at least hit back to back. And it would surprise me if 2 brothers have started in the same All-Star game, but that's possible.
Did Kyle Seager and Corey Seager ever? I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they might have. Not for the same side though. Would have been at that point. But yeah, they might have landed in the same All-Star game. Bloodlines in baseball are always interesting. Like the Boone family is like 4 generations deep now. Like some of these, Vladdy, I just drafted in our dynasty draft. I drafted 2 of his 4 other sons. So we've got Vlad Sr. in the Hall of Fame. We've got Vlad Jr. tearing things up in the major leagues now. Then we've got Vladdy Miguel is 15 going on 16. And I want to say Pablo, but it might be Pedro. Forgive me, Guerrero family, but he is also 15. I think they're from different moms because they're both 15. So I got the 2 of those guys, and then there's 2 more younger ones coming behind those 2. So maybe in another 2-3 years we'll be drafting them. So I've got 5-6 years for them to work their way up to major league rosters and become what their older brother and their father are. So baseball families are very interesting to me. Gun, anything to wrap it up here?
Let's go American League. I don't know. I will say as much as we meme the strategy behind the showdown for the All-Star game, to me the baseball All-Star game is like the best All-Star game in sports. It's very fun to watch. It's majestic. It's beautiful. So I'm going to enjoy it. It's just breaking it down for a DFS perspective was a real different.
Bit of a chore for the DFS perspective, bit of a crapshoot from the DFS perspective. But I agree, it is probably the best All-Star game. The NBA just becomes kind of a for fun and dunk contest, exhibition, 3-point shooting contest. The Pro Bowl's a joke in the NFL. I can't even remember the last time I watched a Pro Bowl in the NFL. NHL All-Star game's good. The NHL skills contest is really good. That's a fun time. So I actually like the skills contest for the NHL and the NBA better than the All-Star game itself for either one of those sports. But I'm with you. Even though we don't have the days of like Pete Rose trucking the catcher in the All-Star game anymore, it is still probably the best All-Star game we've got. So get out there and enjoy it, everybody. Let's see. Where are we at? 3 more thumbs up, and then we're going to punch out. We're going to sit here and demand 3 thumbs. People are going to start taking them away now. Let's see. The Alomars, 2nd and 7th in the All-Star game. Okay, the Alomars, that's a good call. Another interesting pair of brothers. Good call, guys. DraftKings has no catcher. Kirk listed at Kirk. I don't know.
While we're waiting on our 3 likes. Okay. I was going to ask y'all, if y'all had to make one change to the All-Star game, what would y'all change? I know most All-Star games, everybody wants to change something. So
I would bring back extra innings for one.
So one thing I liked was when the All-Star game was for home field advantage in the World Series.
Yeah.
And they've removed that, and that made it, that really gave incentive to win for each team as a, I don't know, a point of unity. But
yeah, it does put a little competitive edge back into the equation doing that. So yeah, I like that. That definitely makes sense. And being a little bit more clear about like, what the rules are as far as if a batting practice coach is going to come out on the field and pitch these home run derby. I really hope this home run derby thing happens. As dumb as I think it is, I really hope we see it. And I really hope that FanDuel scores all of them as actual home runs. So that's going to be the fun part of everybody's night.
Oh my God.
Twitter up the Ty France. Grab those additional 3 Ty France home runs, everybody, quick. All right, gang. That's about it. We appreciate it. We've been brought to you by Odd Shopper. We appreciate all the thumbs up out there. Looks like you guys are chasing that all-star caliber ISO. So we appreciate you hanging out with us. I've been Terry McBride. That's my pal Gundacker. Gun, tell them where they can find you.
YouTube and Twitter /Gundacker.
There we go. Good luck tonight, everybody. Stokastic.com. We've got projections, ownership, all that good stuff is up on the site. So if you need anything, jump over there. We got about an hour till lock. Good luck.